Hey everybody, this is Rob and Jordan, and we are back for Archangel Inc. Live number 23. Is that right, Jordan? Is it 23?
I think we're at 23, Rob. How are you doing
Right
tonight?
on. I'm good. I'm good. And tonight, everybody, we are going to be talking about bestseller breakdown, Redux. So last week we looked at a number of bestsellers and kind of commented on what they were doing and what they were working on and elements of their sales page that I think were helpful to their bestseller status. This week, we are going to be looking at some books that are maybe not performing quite as well as they could be, and see what lessons we can glean. We are going to do this in the spirit of constructive feedback and not railing on anybody. Obviously, a lot of us are independent authors, and we learn by iteration. We learn. Well, we try new things, we figure it out, we see what we can improve upon, and step by step try and get better. So this, to anybody out there or any of the authors that we might be covering, this isn't meant as a personal attack, more just what we've seen and, trying to learn and improve as best we can. So think about that about covers it. Is there anything that you wanted to say, Jordan, to get started here?
No, I just wanted to add to that too. We never want to put anyone down or say like, this person, you could do better here and, whatever. We're definitely trying to do it in the spirit of looking at these pages and kind of saying, hey, this is something you could do better. The listings for my books aren't perfect. I'm sure there are people out there that could look at my listings and say, hey, Jordan, you actually forgot about this one thing for one of your earlier books. And I'd be like, great, thank you. That's very helpful. And I think if it's done in the right spirit, this kind of stuff can be very helpful. So anyone out there, please take what we're doing in that spirit. And if you have any questions, or if you think we didn't do it in that way, didn't do it in a nice way, definitely let us know. We appreciate feedback for that as well. But
yeah, this is definitely not a hey everybody, let's point and stare at dumpster fires kind of situation. But that said, we can jump right in. I know, Jordan, you mentioned that you have a couple of different tools and things that you use to kind of quickly get a sense of what's going on the Amazon sales page, and you wanted to demo and bring those up. So we can jump into that if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, sure. Let me know when the screen share is up, and I will jump into that. Yeah, I wanted to share these two. Sweet deal. I wanted to share these two things real quick, just to kind of, as you're looking on Amazon, as you're doing your own research, it can kind of help you. So I'm on Amazon right now, and hopefully you can see the screen. Maybe I'll make it just slightly bigger here so you can see that. I have a plugin, which is a Chrome plugin called, it's called DS Amazon Quick View. It's not necessarily a KDP or Kindle plugin. It actually works across the entire Amazon store. But what it does is it allows you to, I just have Kindle ebooks. I just have some of the top bestsellers on here. It brings up this little box right here that shows you the ranking of the book right here in this area. And it's going to bring that up for each ranking, for each book, each product, whatever it is you're looking at. It's going to bring that up so you can see. Now, if I go in here, where it's pulling the data from is just from the books page. So if I go into this books page, the Amazon bestseller rank is going to be down here on the book details, way down here. It's going to show up right there. And that's where it's pulling that data from. What it allows you to do is it allows you to see that data real quick. If you're looking through your genre, looking through your keyword, it gives you a good sense of, if your keyword is personal growth or something, and you're looking for that, you can kind of see what the competition is. Now, if you're just trying to get in the top competition on Kindle right here, I don't have any search term. There's some pretty high rankings here for these books. Remember, the lower is the better here.
Right. So number one paid would be the highest selling book of that particular time frame that they're looking at, and obviously whatever million is that much further down.
Yeah, and we'll link to these tools, Rob, too, in the video. I think it can be really helpful just as you start to do more research on your own, as you start to watch Rob and I kind of riff on these and do these together. There are some pretty cool plugins and useful tools that you can use just to get a little bit more information, just that much much quicker. So we'll take
one other thing I wanted to ask about, and maybe you're in the habit of using this feature. They do mention price history as well. Is that if you click on that, does that just tell you, hey, this is an historically low price, or this is at a high point in its pricing?
I think yes, it would there. If you had the extended plugin. I don't know if that's the premium version of the plugin.
Yep.
I think that could potentially be helpful. And I believe this plugin is more for, or was started for use in Amazon FBA. So you could go in and change prices on products. But it can be useful there too. I could imagine if I had the extended edition to see the prices of the books. That would be really, I've never even noticed that before, Rob. So that's cool.
Yeah. So that it does remind me the price history. There is another website. I don't know. They may have a plugin or a separate app or something, but it is, or it was called camel.com. And you go in and then you can plug in either by name, or, search for something, or you can just plug in an Amazon URL and it will give you the price history and let you know, hey, this is relatively high. The historical average over the last 12 months or whatever is, this price, and it's currently priced at, this other price. And you can determine, hey, actually, this is about as low as it's going to get. Maybe I want to move on it. Or, hey, this is a little bit high. Let me give it a week or two. If I don't need it right now, maybe the price is going to drop. And, I've certainly used that for physical products before. I have never used it for Kindle books, but it is pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, that could be a cool way to just monitor your own prices and kind of, if you know what your competition is, kind of seeing what they're doing and what they've done. That could be helpful.
Right, or like the book that we were talking about, which if anybody comments, we are going to keep an eye out for. We're offering a special bonus gift of the paperback edition of Elastic Habits. Both Jordan and I really like that book and really impressed with its listing and want to make that book available for anybody who is the first to comment. So if you're tuning in here or on the replay, let us know. We will keep an eye out for it, and then we will contact you. Just leave some way for us to reach out to you to get some personal information, so we can make sure to get that copy sent over your way. But in any event, you can kind of see. I know last time it said special price only 99 cents, and you can see if they're blowing smoke or not. You look up their price history. You're like, it's been 99 cents for the last 3 months. Or, it's actually been 99 cents only for the last 3 days. And normally it's, $7.99 or $9.99 or something. So a tool like that can be kind of helpful for that kind of thing as well, I imagine.
Yeah. And I think furthering with that, Rob, it could be helpful, in seeing that, like, okay, how long was this book? What was this book's promotional period? Did they use a 2-week 99-cent thing? That I would be curious to know what Stephen Guise did for that Elastic Habits. Did he do maybe like a 1-day 99-cent? And if you could see that data, that could potentially be very helpful when you're trying to figure out your own launch plan. So
yeah, just kind of get a little peek into the back end of what strategies people are employing.
All right, cool. Wanted to share also one more tool from Kindle Burner, and we're going to take this. So we're going to take this book, American Dirt, the Oprah's Book Club, which we talked about last week. I think we had this one on. This was our first one, Rob, that we did. Our screen share, but it's just the number one, at least the number one showing book on Amazon, not the number one ranked. But just kind of want to give you an idea. What does that mean? What does number 26 paid in Kindle store really mean as far as sales go? So Dave over at Kindle Burner, which he has all kinds of cool tools. This is just another one of them. Amazon sales rank calculator. I don't honestly use it much myself anymore because I can kind of see this paid rank and kind of get an estimate in my head. But as you're starting to learn, as you're starting to figure out, okay, what does that mean? How many books is that selling? This is a cool tool to be able to do that. And we'll link to this again in the description, but you can look here and just type in the rank. So I'm just going to type in 26 there because that's what the book's rank is. And that's what his data says, that this book is selling about almost 2,600 copies per day. So the book is making a good chunk of change. And that just helps you be able to see, especially when you're looking at books in your own category, books you want to rank for, you can kind of see, okay, I need to get into this rank to potentially get into a category. How many books am I going to need to sell? There's other things that you can do with that. But this is just a helpful way of starting to see and understand, what that ranking really means.
And it looks like it is available for both Kindle books as well as print books. So I'm a little bit curious, actually, if you let's click try again, if you don't mind, and then you put the number 26 best-selling book in the print category. I'm wondering how many units that corresponds to. Oh wow. Okay, so 634 books per day. as opposed to 2,760, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty dramatic. And perhaps it makes sense if you are going to do a big push, if you have the kind of ambition and marketing budget to kind of try and move a lot of print units at once. You could theoretically rank more highly, more quickly with fewer sales in the print market versus the Kindle market.
Yeah, I wonder if that's saying too, Rob, that overall that print books are selling less than Kindle books in some way. I wonder if the rankings are the same and you're selling so many less books. Just curious, or maybe there's more. I'm sure there's other factors there too. That's pretty dramatic. That was surprising to me. I wouldn't have expected it to go down that much.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not certain. I think probably it also has to do with one, the wider availability of ebook editions. You know, a lot of people can kind of quickly get an ebook edition out there, and so maybe there's more. I don't know, just more in the market. And also you can sell those for 99 cents or in some cases nothing, you know, for $0. And so that can help move units, whereas that's just not an option with print editions.
Yeah.
So there's a little less elasticity with the print side of things.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And are you ready to jump into some books?
Let's go. So we have a few different ones here that you scoped out.
Yeah, this first one I picked up was Data Wrangling with Python. I just have some different books here, and we just kind of wanted to share just a little bit. You know, I didn't look through too much of these. We wanted this to be as much organic as possible. I just was kind of picking these up. You know, first things I see, Rob, right off the bat with this one, the book cover is definitely more of a textbooky, I would say. Price seems to reflect that as well, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That could potentially be part of the genre that they're going for. But it just seems to me, and we'll scroll down here and I'll show you guys what the rank is right now, and we can even, so 853702. Actually, real quick, since we showed you the tool, we'll go type that in and see what it says.
Yep.
If you don't mind.
No, please.
853702. Thank you.
You got it.
Had it in my head, then I forgot. So less than a book a day. That's really, this is what this is going to say. For anything probably around below 500,000, it's going to say that. Once you start getting a little bit up there, I think maybe 100,000 is about a book a day. So you can kind of start to see, you know, maybe this textbook or this book isn't selling all that well. It did come out about 4 years ago. You know, so just considering that, it may not be selling all that well at the current moment. Maybe when it came out, it sold well and they have other books and, you know, all that stuff is good. But
the other thing I would imagine is when it comes to textbooks, there is perhaps a seasonal variation to it. So it might sell really well, you know, in August, September, and then, you know, December, January or something, you know, right before semesters begin, as opposed to kind of a perennial bestseller, you know, continually moving 50 or 100 or 1,000 copies a day or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, Rob, but it's a good thing to note that the Amazon bestseller rank is current as of the hour. So that rank that we're looking at right now is very consistently updated. I believe they say every hour they update it. So that's number 853702 compared to all of the books in Amazon in total.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if we have anything else on this one right off the bat.
Yeah, we can scan down a little bit and kind of just take a look. So if we do that drop down, so one of the things, you know, I think they're doing a couple of things well here. They have smaller paragraphs, more easy to read. They have the bullet points, which make it a little bit more accessible. They are not using any more customized HTML. Perhaps they could. It's hard to say how much of that is related to their genre. Maybe that's just not something that textbooks typically do. And, you know, if it is in fact a textbook, then, you know, it's kind of a thing where you're not, as an author looking to attract a casual reader, it's more, okay, well, the professor assigned this, you know, my instructor assigned this, I have to kind of pick it up. But they do a couple of things, you know, well, it's a little bit easier to read than some of those big blocks of text that you see sometimes. And, you know, that's pretty good. If we let's see, anything you wanted to note on that?
I think for it definitely depends on genre, but I think with a textbook, I could see them benefiting from a headline here that showed exactly what the book was offering,
Right.
as well as maybe a CTA at the end. We talk a lot about that.
Yep.
Just two things that could potentially be added here, along with some additional formatting.
Yeah. And if we scroll down a little bit more, it looks like they don't have, oh, they do. I was going to say, it looks like they don't have any editorial reviews, but it looks like they do have at least an about the author, which is something that you can input on your own. They don't have any editorial reviews, in the sense of other industry leaders or, other professors or whomever writing testimonials for it. So
yeah,
that's unfortunate.
I think another potential, we talk a lot about reviews. You do have a lot of control in the reviews that you get, but you don't have 100% control. But just thinking about, whenever you see this kind of a rating on Amazon, you see it's interesting in that view. Rob, it has looks like full 4 stars out of 5, but then this view has the kind of half a star into the 4.
Right.
Whenever I see that on Amazon, that's always a red flag for me. I typically, at least personally, don't buy anything that's below that 4 stars, because especially when you start to get reviews, it's really hard. It's a good sign that there's something potentially going on if there's less than 4 stars there.
Right. Yeah.
Curious, that there's not necessarily super negative reviews up at the top, but then there's some verified purchases and of a 3 and then a 1, and then it kind of has some other comments here. So just something for maybe the author to note in the book, and also for future books as well.
Right.
All right, if you want to skip over to
let's move on.
This next one, My Dog, My Buddha. That's where we're jumping to next. So like we said, we're getting some different genres and different topics here. Just to start looking, right off the bat, I don't think it's necessarily a bad title. It is very interesting, and it kind of pulls you in, and it makes me wonder, what's really going on there. I think the subtitle probably could be longer potentially, and have more keywords as to what it really solves. But you can kind of see right off the bat that it is a dog training manual or book of some sort.
Yeah, the first thing that occurred to me, My Dog, My Buddha, was maybe some sort of testimonial, or not testimonial, but like a memoir or something. Like if they had a therapy dog or something like that. So the fact that it is a dog training book isn't necessarily clear from the outset to me. In terms of the cover, I think it's not bad. It has a fun, happy, attractive looking dog on the front cover. Has them, I guess, on further inspection, maybe not at first glance, the dog is sort of well trained. It's, paws are up there, and it's maybe waiting for instruction or something like that. So it's not bad. It's this, again, we're not highlighting things that are obviously messes. There are things that I think are decent about it, but I think you're right. The training aspect maybe could be a little bit easier, or more prominent, easier to see, or more prominently featured on the cover, because as it stands, it makes me think of like Marley and Me, some sort of either a fiction story, or again, some sort of memoir, something like that.
Yep. Also thinking about the title and just kind of what this book is presenting, just to think about, maybe the book has niched down too far. Maybe it's gone too many levels down. So it is a dog training manual, but it's also taking that spiritual and empowering approach. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just considering, as far as sales ranking goes, and we'll scroll down to see what that is. Maybe there's not as much of a market for people that are doing that, and who knows, maybe there is. But it's just something to think about. Are there people that are wanting a spiritual approach to dog training?
Right.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying that there isn't, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah. Another thing that I'll note here, the Kindle is priced at Kindle edition is priced at $10.49, which is odd if it's independently published. Again, we've talked about how Amazon really wants you to be within that band. So over $9.99, the author is typically only going to get, an independent author is only going to get 35% of the sales price. So, by pricing it at $10.49, they might be getting $3.50 or $4. Whereas if they priced it 50 cents less, they would be keeping $7. So just an interesting choice for some reason. That seems to be kind of where it's at.
Yep. So good ratings. That has the 4.7 out of 5. So that looks good right off the bat.
Right.
I do have kind of a potential red flag with their headline. Now it's allowed right now. Like Amazon, obviously hasn't removed this in any way.
Right.
But as far as I understand, Rob, it's best to not put things in here like #1 new release in animal behavior.
Yeah.
Now, I know you can say things like, #1 New York Times bestseller if it is,
right.
but sometimes I just get the feeling that Amazon may not be a huge fan of putting things like #1 new release or #1 bestseller as that first part of that headline. It's just not something I would do. It would picture to me as, you're always trying to stay on Amazon's good side with that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's not something I would put in there. Now, with that note, you can put things, and I've done this myself, you can put things like, and I think maybe even Stephen Guise did that in his book, you can put in 99 cents for a limited time. I've done that. I know that's one thing I've heard other authors talk about that they do on occasion. And I think Amazon, it isn't like 100% clear whether that's okay, but I know people have done it and, there hasn't been any downfall from that, but you don't want to keep it in there forever, especially when your book goes up in price, something you want to monitor. But just think about that, that headline is important, but, try not to do anything that could potentially change there, because obviously this is not a new release anymore. It's not a #1 new release. So that's in some ways, Amazon could view that as misleading the customer.
Yep, that was exactly my thought, that they may perceive it as inaccurate or misleading and respond accordingly. So scrolling down a little bit, they seem to be utilizing some of the advanced HTML or customized HTML, which is good. There's some italicization, there's some bolding, there's some bullet lists. This kind of thing is kind of easy to read, and that's great. There also is not exactly a call to action, but a little bit of a call to action. If you like this, this other book, you'll love the approach that, this current book lays out. Not as explicit as, purchase today, but, it is a little bit of a call to action in a way. It's identifying its target demographic and implying what should be done. So that's cool. Also, go ahead.
I was just going to add, you could add something, it definitely sets you up for a CTA. You could add something as a final sentence, real short, and just say, pick it up today to give your dog the training he deserves, or something like that. You can kind of finish something like that.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. The other thing I'll note here is there are 2 editions of the book, which is good. There's a print edition and a digital edition. There's no audio edition, which may be something, that target of their audience may appreciate, but at least it's not one of those fly-by-night ebooks that are hastily put together and don't speak of credibility. Based on what we're seeing here, you have a lot of their ducks in the row. They have everything kind of laid out, which is great. Yep.
All right, I'll scroll down here and kind of see. Yeah, we're at 738. So similar to the other book that we did, selling less than a book a day.
Right.
Let's see if they have. It doesn't look like they have any editorial reviews in here. They have the same thing. They have that about the author. So that's something they could add to the page. I don't know if we have any. I don't think we have anything else. I mean, like I said earlier, the reviews look pretty good. It's good that there's some verified purchases there, which are always good and helpful.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, and we did have a comment here. Looks like cool. Christy. Looks like Jordan got a haircut. Yeah.
I did.
Hey, yes.
I got a haircut today, and I was super thrilled about it. I went in, and the guy was like, he didn't speak a word of English, and actually, I should say I didn't speak a word of Portuguese. I showed him a picture, and he went to town, and this is what it turned out, and I loved it. So
good. So cool. Thank you. Thanks, Christy. Good to see you dropping in. Appreciate it. Moving on. Okay. We've got the next one here, and jump right in, Jordan.
Cool. What is your dream? Make your dream come true. Start today. Some things right off the bat that I noticed. I don't necessarily like the formatting here, Rob, of doing the what is your dream with the question mark and then that. I mean, things like that. I mean, I don't think they're going to stick out to everybody, but the things that I notice when I'm looking through that kind of scream kind of self-made and you don't want to give yourself a bad name by screaming that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just a little bit jarring. You see it, even if you can't quite put your finger on why it seems off. You perceive that it is, and you have just a little less credibility in the eyes of somebody, the eyes of your reader.
Yeah, even just the periods within the title too don't look as good. The only thing I think with this book, I mean, it definitely has the good ratings and it has the different options of the book, which are all good. I picked this one, Rob, because I think it makes that air of what is the actual thing that the book is solving. Make your dream come true. Start today. So what is the dream? So this, where the dog, what was the name of it? My Dog, My Buddha. Love it. Where that one maybe goes a little bit too far down. Maybe this book is too much up in the clouds of what is your dream? Make your dream come true. Okay, that I'm sure there's some really, really valuable content in there. I would imagine that there is, but what problem is the book solving? What is it actually doing for the reader?
Yeah, it's, would you say maybe it's just a little too broad in scope and not clear at a glance, who the target audience is and what specific problem it's looking to solve? Yeah.
So I think it has some good, when I first looked at this book, I noticed the copy. I think sales copy is not too bad. I think they could do with a little formatting here and have the spaces. We talked about last week that Malcolm Gladwell kind of had his text bunched up. So I think she could, or the author or the publisher, whoever, could spread that out a little bit. I think it's good to start with a question here. I like that. I like that she's kind of bringing people in. But I think it's very broad, it's very vague, whatever your dream is, start today. And I think really thinking about a book like that, how can the book help me? Why would I pick that up and spend my time reading it? I'm not sure exactly what it's going to help me with.
Another comment, looks like Christy mentioned could use a different book cover too. It looks like, based on what we have below, this is the author, Esther Jacobs, and that could work. And there are some situations in which that makes sense, but potentially, very rarely do we use book covers which feature the author, and the reason for that is, if you're just starting out as an author, your image is not necessarily distinct as a brand, and may not work to gather new people into your tribe. The people who already know you, they might recognize you and think, oh, that's really cool. But the people who are just finding it, as you're working on building up that audience, they're not necessarily going to resonate with that image. So it might be, not Esther, but based on what it looks like here, I think it is, and it could potentially, use a different cover and speak to a little bit of a broader audience by doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Christy, thank you for stopping by. I feel like you should be here. You're the expert in all things book covers and titles and all that stuff. We appreciate you stopping by and sharing that with us. Let's see where we're going to go next here, Rob.
Well, that's good. They have some editorial reviews. It looks like, some people, we don't know who they are, but that's fine. We don't really have to. We just see that it looks like several people, Isa and Sabrina and Kristen and Cataline and so forth, who are commenting on it. And that's helpful. Having those editorial reviews is better than not, and it does add a different sort of character to the listing and a different perspective for audience members who are potentially interested in buying.
Yep, and all that would need is just a little bit of cleanup. If you wanted to make that just stand out a little bit more, like we talked about, formatting in our previous video, by separating the name on a different line. And then saying, like you were just saying, Rob, we don't know who these people are. So saying Sabrina, verified Amazon purchase, or Isa, I mean, you don't necessarily want to put like friend of the author, but maybe something else.
Yeah. So homemaker and, independent, entrepreneur, or, whatever their bona fides might be that are relevant. But, as it stands, it's better than not having them. So kudos on that front.
Yep. So we have a little even a higher rank here. This book came out about 2.5-ish years ago, a little bit more than that. But yeah, 1,100,000 paid in Kindle Store, and I will just comment and note, Rob, whenever it goes up into the 1 millions or potentially 2 millions, Amazon's kind of how they do their ranking and how the sales are calculated are based off of how it's doing right now. And also there's some factored in previous sales in there as well.
Like historical ranking.
Yeah. So yeah, if a book sold maybe like 1,000 copies on the first day and never sold again, even if it was 3 years later, it's probably going to be at a less ranking than this one. But we don't have to go too far.
You mean, so in other words, it might be, not 1.1 million, but 900,000 or something?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And that makes sense, because at a certain point, fewer than one book per day, if you have 1.5 million books that are selling 0 books per day, how do you rank them? How do you categorize them? So I imagine at that point you have other sort of tiebreakers that come into effect.
Yeah, it's complicated how Amazon does it, and it's difficult to understand and also difficult to explain because they change things up too. So I don't really know 100%. Everything I just said could be wrong. That's just my understanding.
Right. So it may have been accurate at some point, but pending new production or new processes by Amazon could be changing. Cool.
Yep. Do you have any other notes for this one, Rob?
They offer a mass market paperback, which is sort of interesting. If you would you mind clicking on that, see if that changes the listing? Okay. So that cover is actually kind of cool. I like the way it looks there. The dream is a different font. It's a little more ethereal. I'm not certain how you get it listed as a mass market paperback. This author may have actually had a small print run and then supplied a number of these editions to Amazon, to their warehouse, and that's the mass market paperback. Although at this point it is $16.95 versus $24.97. I don't know why anybody would prefer that edition over the paperback edition that you can get Prime and for several dollars cheaper. But that's interesting. That's interesting to note. So kudos. I mean, again, good. Overall, lots of good things going on here, but it may have reached its peak previously in terms of sales.
Yep, and just to note further, and this may be different for mass market paperback, but for the most part, if you go into product details and there is no sales rank listed at all, usually that means that book has not sold at all, ever. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure if it's any different with a mass market paperback. That's not something I've seen on a listing very often at all, Rob. I didn't even notice it actually until you pointed it out.
Right.
So yeah, not 100% sure, but it may have sold, it may not have, it may not have.
Right. Cool. Right. Let's continue on. Check out a couple others.
This one's Airbnb Host Handbook: How to Make Money from Short-Term Rental. Now, first, right off the bat, I don't like the question at the end.
Right.
I find that a little bit interesting. Are you asking me?
Yeah. It's sort of awkwardly phrased. If it's a how-to, you're giving instruction. So I would drop the question mark. Or if you're trying to give kind of a first-person perspective or a second-person perspective, I would just rephrase it. How do I make money from a short-term rental? Or how do you make money from a short-term rental? The other thing, just as a note, Airbnb is not all capitalized, and it is in the title. They use a different font, so you don't really have to worry about that as much. But when you're entering your listing information, Airbnb, I believe they have it, Air, capital B, lowercase n, capital B, or something like that. So I would just follow the standard if I were putting a book like this up with a similar title, that the company itself mentions. It just,
Yes.
it again shows that you are paying attention to detail, and that is helpful and important and authoritative.
Yeah, and you're totally right with that, Rob. Like, I can't remember exactly what it is, but this doesn't look right to me, how they have it here. So yeah, just thinking about that, especially when you're using a brand like that, making sure that you're having the right spelling, because it's just going to be, we talk about this thing of putting your best foot forward,
right.
And making those mistakes that are just going to be glaring, even if the person like me and you both are like, I'm not 100% sure what Airbnb is. This just kind of raises a red flag and doesn't look right off the bat, and that can kind of signal I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to spend $10 on that book. I'm also not going to spend my time reading it either.
Right. Yeah, and that's sort of the impression I get too. It's like, well, I'm not totally turned off. Maybe I'm interested in rental properties. Maybe I want to know about getting into that. But there are a couple of things immediately that make me think, you're really going to have to sell me. It's kind of an uphill battle the rest of the way to make a move on this. You've got the cover, which is okay. It's not terrible. Yeah. It's not amazing, but it if we think about it on a pass-fail spectrum, it passes. It's well enough. It's not obviously amateurish or anything like that. So good job to the author and the creator on that front. But yeah,
I want to mention with the cover, I think, and this is something too. They do the Airbnb host. I like that they. I think Airbnb's colors aren't that type of red, but they picked a similar color scheme as to what they were trying to care about. So.
Okay, so yeah, not a bad thing. I would say sometimes it can work out really well. Other times having a color scheme that is close but not quite right might be a little bit more distracting, might call attention to itself more than not trying to match up with it at all. But I haven't been to the Airbnb site and looked at their color palette recently, so I can't comment any more than that. But anyway, so that's kind of interesting. Then the fact that it has this question mark as a at the end of it, and I think this, I'm not really certain that I'm going to buy anything they say, but they still have a chance to kind of win me over. Like I haven't read through the description yet, and so maybe that description is going to say something that's really going to persuade me, and that could work. First thing, just at a glance, I'm noticing no formatting, so not necessarily something that bolsters that feeling of credibility. I would have liked to see formatting just to say, hey, I've got a handle on this. I know the rules of engagement here, and I can manipulate them and act accordingly. But yeah, it is broken up, so that's good. It's not a big block of text. I think that's really helpful. Makes it easier to picture myself reading these. All of these paragraphs are 1 to 3 sentences, it looks like. So all good on that front. The other thing that I notice immediately, there are no other formats. There are no other editions. There's no strike through in terms of the price, which, is nice when you have it. You're like, oh, I'm getting a deal. The Kindle edition is $9.99 and the paperback is $14.99. No, wait, it's $13.99 or, something like that. And that doesn't give me a whole lot of trust. Also, I'm not seeing any ratings here. I don't see any 1-star or 5-star review. So I see this, maybe I am interested in seasonal rentals, but I think I would probably click on and see what else is out there. If this is the only thing in genre or the only, the best of the offerings, and I'm committed to researching in that field, then maybe I'll give it a second look. But as it stands, I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into it. And the listing itself and everything that I'm seeing here might have lost me as a prospective reader.
Yeah, I think just having having one review is just super important as far as that social credibility goes. Social proof that at least one person has read the book and found value in it, even if it was the author, having people or sending people advanced review copies. At least there is a 1-star or a review there somewhere. I think you think about, at least for me, if I look up a place on Google and it has no reviews yet, I don't want to be the first one to try out, that new vegan restaurant. Like that's not my plan. I would much rather go to some place that's 4.5 stars, 500 reviews, And maybe that's me. I'm sure there are thrill seekers out there that want to be the first person to review a place, or maybe the place is brand new. But I think it's very hard to purchase a book or purchase really anything on Amazon, for that matter, that doesn't have at least some kind of rating to it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Let's scroll down here and just look. He's got some from the author section, no editorial reviews, but he doesn't have any reviews to speak of.
Right.
And then there's a little bit more from the back cover, which is good.
It's kind of big and blocky. If there's any way to format that, I might do that. As it stands, it seems like a task, before me that I might just as easily avoid doing if I see something that big. Whereas above, the description broken up into paragraphs, it might be about the same number of words. It's hard to guesstimate at a glance, but I'm much more likely to read the above than that block below.
Yeah. Now we got the similar ranking again to some of the other books we looked at in that 770,000 range, and good about the author. I don't mind the picture. He's got some good information there. Overall, he's got a great start. I think there's just some room for improvement, and like we said before, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. It's a good headshot. It looks professional, clean white background. It's not, you and three other people who are like, wait, which one is the author? Or, it's not it looks good. It looks befitting of somebody who is potentially in real estate and who may have the sort of credibility that I'd be looking for to learn about this.
Yeah. All right. Ready for the next one?
Let's go.
Let's do it. We got online passive income ideas, how to make money online, passive income.
Okay.
Definitely probably going in that subtitle for passive income keyword, even though that the keyword's pretty, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's tons of competition for that within Amazon. I think there's better ways to add in keywords into subtitles. You really want if you're going to add keywords into subtitles, which we definitely recommend, do it in a way that flows naturally. Online passive income ideas, how to make money online. Here's 10 tips to increase passive income, or 10 tips to add passive income to your portfolio, or something that kind of acts like a natural reading.
Exactly. That sounds kind of appropriate. It makes me think of sometimes if you're on YouTube and you find some, for me, like a basketball channel or something, and they said ignore the text below the break, and then they have all sorts of keywords. It's like Michael Jordan, Jordan versus LeBron, best player all time, and then like just a whole big string of those things, and it's like, well, why? Okay, obviously this isn't meant for readability. This isn't meant to actually flow, and this is not that. It's not as dramatic or as insane as some of those are, but it does have a little bit of that vibe of, this is almost a self-evident SEO grab.
Yep. Other notes right off the bat, Rob, the income ideas isn't capitalized, and that just doesn't look good, especially when the subtitle and the rest of it.
Right.
Title case, actually, it's not really, because the two shouldn't be capitalized, correct?
Yeah, right. Typically, those connecting words would not be. Sometimes I see it. People will just capitalize everything, which is fine for consistency's sake, I suppose. But how to make money, the two would ordinarily not be capitalized.
Yeah. Right off the bat, seeing the three ratings, you can look and see that there's 2 5s and a 2. People probably, if they're wondering about this, are going to go down to that 2 and look into that. We can look at that in a second. Formatting's not super great. There's not some spaces, and just to know, and like we've been saying, these formatting issues happen to the best of us. They happen to, like we mentioned, Malcolm Gladwell.
Right.
It's really, especially if you're going to go in, and it looks like he did format in HTML with at least a little bit with this bold, and also with these the bulleted list later on. It's really easy to make a mistake and not put those spaces in between there.
Right. No paragraph break.
So just as you go and do it in HTML, try to check it as well to make sure that's not happening.
Right. And I wouldn't harp on this too much, but some people I could imagine would ding him because they're talking about online income ideas. So you think this is somebody who's sort of tech savvy, who has, a way around it, and then, maybe they miss little things like this. It's important to be sort of genre specific. I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. If you're writing about classical music and you misspell Beethoven's name or something, when you're dealing with your area of expertise, then it's really important to get your ducks in a row as much as possible. Again, something like this, not everybody's going to notice it. I wouldn't ding them too hard, but if I were interacting with them, if they were working with us, I would advise them. Really make sure, especially anything sort of online related, like we're tweaking it out as much as possible.
Yeah, but I think it's just, if you're thinking about too, if you're writing a book on how to create book covers, you want your book cover to be really, really good. If you're writing a book on how to write an Amazon book description, make sure the book description looks great.
Right.
And like you said, anything where you're thinking about online stuff, you kind of expect it to not have HTML formatting issues or anything like that. And most Amazon readers aren't going to look here and look on this and be like, oh, well, the HTML formatting's off. He should fix that. Right. They're just going to see it, and it's just going to be not red flags, but just potential little things that pop into the mind. And like we said with this, not capitalized here, not a huge deal, but when it adds up to the rest of the purchase decision. It just can really affect that. So we'll scroll down here.
Yeah.
626,883. Like I said before, we'll jump back to the sales calculator real quick and just type that in.
Yep.
Actually, we'll just type in 500,000 so you can kind of see where that's at.
Okay.
500,000 is less than a book a day. Probably the same for Kindle. Looks like we got to type it in for each. Less than a book a day. So yeah, anything less than 500,000 is selling less than a book a day, and that's all it's going to show. It's not going to break into the 0.2 books a day and whatnot. I believe we're on this tab. Yep. So we're at that. Like we said, it has those ratings, so you can see. I guess we can see all reviews. We don't have to look into this too much, but just was curious. Yeah, I guess that 2-star rating came from a different country, maybe. I don't know. I'm not able to look at that.
Yeah, interesting.
But either way, it still has the 2-star. It's still pulling down from that overall ranking there.
Right.
Anything else on this one?
Just, they've got the audiobook edition out, which I think is great, and they have a paperback edition. So kudos on having multiple ways for your readers and your listeners to interact with you. Really is a good strategy if you can do it. I would imagine, especially for this kind of topic, online income ideas, being able to play that in the background and, while you're going about your day. The whole premise, just scanning through the description is, you want to make more money, but you don't have time to take on another job. I can easily see them saying, you want to learn more, but don't have time to sit down with a book, audiobooks, that's kind of the solution. And they make that available for their audience. So that's great.
And I will say, I clicked on this book from what I remember. I clicked on it because I did like the cover.
Yeah, I thought the cover's really cool.
Yeah, I like the different shades of purple and kind of how he did the light bulb and filled it up. And a light bulb isn't necessarily the most novel of ideas on a book cover, but for whatever reason, it did grab my attention and it pulled me in. And that's great. That's what a cover is supposed to do. It's supposed to pull you in. The title is supposed to get you interested, and then this sales copy is supposed to seal the deal. It's kind of how
it's a reassuring cover, and it's something that gives me comfort if I'm thinking about taking that next step and reading forward. And like we talked about before, when you're building book covers, you often want to speak in cliches. You have this concern that, I just want to be distinctive. I want to be a trailblazer. But if you don't have a followership behind you, then you might be trailblazing with nobody anywhere, close behind you. And that's not a position that you want to be in. So just kind of speak to a general audience and speak in a way that people are going to recognize immediately and know that, this is the book for me.
Yep. Good deal.
Cool.
All right, maybe one or two, Rob.
We can let's take a look. Mm-hmm.
I know we both love this. I mean, I could do this all night.
Let's make this the last one.
But we'll make this the last one. That works.
Yeah.
Temptation, finding self-control in an age of excess.
Cool.
Right off the bat, I mean, honestly, I don't see too much. There's nothing super glaring, I would say.
Yeah.
The book does. I mean, I don't think the cover really appeals to me all that much. It does look like the text here is kind of faded, and I don't know. It's not necessarily super eye catchy or easy to read. I mean, it is orange. That's definitely going to be eye catchy.
Yeah.
But
I happen to really like that cover on glance anyway. You know, if I looked at it a little bit closer, perhaps my opinion might shift. But Temptation, it's, you know, kind of silhouettes of a cat looking at a couple of birds in a bird cage, and so you can sort of immediately understand what temptation exists there. It's like, oh, you have this natural urge, cats and birds, and you're resisting it. The cat seems to be calm, or at least, you know, restraining itself. I think that's cool. Having that big one-word title in the center is good. Finding self-control in an age of excess. I think the subtitle is good. And, you know, we talked about last week having kind of a small text endorsement, small font endorsement on there is not necessarily a bad thing. It looks like there's something both above and below the subtitle and the author name. And interesting. So this is the Kindle edition. And it looks like they have changed the name. The print book is what we were looking at previously. Is that right? Because this says we have met the enemy, and it is a
we've met the enemy, self-control in an age of excess.
Right, and it's a donut with you know, like a grenade fuse attached to it, which is kind of cool, and I can appreciate that as well. But yeah, there's something about the clarity and the simplicity, the silhouette quality of the other cover that I liked, and I think it's good, at least, that they have a couple of different editions. It is sort of interesting, you know, that they have this discontiguous branding, you know, for the different editions, but you know, maybe that's by design. Maybe that's something they were comfortable with. Maybe they just didn't have time to update, you know, the other edition whenever they made the change. So in any event, yeah, I do think it works. Again, you know, pass fail, it passes. I'm ready to read the next one. If we close that, the other thing that struck out to me is very prominently it had the release date. The paperback came out December 27th, 2011. So the fact that it's not a big time bestseller right now doesn't necessarily bother me when I know that it's been out for, you know, 9 years, for almost a decade. And that actually, you know, I think of that, or I see that release date, and I think, all right, maybe there are reviews out there, you know, from before. Maybe this is actually kind of, you know, I don't want to say a cult classic, but, you know, has a little bit of a following, maybe in the field of psychology or human behavior, or, you know, whatever genre that this may fit into. People have commented on this before, and so I think that could be good. I might be tempted to say Temptation, Finding Self-Control in an Age of Excess, and just do a quick search on, you know, on Google, on Goodreads, you know, look for reviews of it and see what else people have to say, and then kind of scan down and read more.
Yeah, I think that's great points on this one, Rob. I think to me, it's very interesting. Like we were saying, that the hardcover edition, I'll just click on the hardcover real quick. It's interesting that it is different, because in some ways that can be, you know, it's the same book, but it can be jarring in some ways. Oh, am I reading the same book if I get the hardcover, or
right,
you know, whatnot? And you know, it did say in that the view that you know, we were looking at the hardcover edition, and then if you buy the paperback, you get the paperback. It's just wondering, why there's some discontinuity there, and maybe just because it was about, you know, 9 years ago that it came out.
Right.
You kind of see, you know, it looks like the Kindle has the same cover too.
Would you mind clicking on the paperback edition as well to see which version? Yeah, so it looks like the paperback and the Kindle are kind of synced up, but the hardcover is a little bit different. Yeah, that is an unusual strategy or unusual decision. But yeah, in any event,
we got about the author. No editorial reviews here. Reviews overall aren't too bad. There's 34 of them with a 4 rating with some verified purchases, so that's good. People are going to find that some social proof in that. And 34 is not a bad amount at all. Especially to have as far as when you're just looking at social proof. So nothing too terrible. That's just interesting when you see that the discontinuity there. I don't know if the hardcover is from maybe Ingram Spark, and then these kind of got matched up. I do find it interesting that it is matched up with a different title, because I know normally if these paperback Kindle editions are listed here in this area, I know normally it does have to be that, at least from my experience, has to be the same title. I'm curious there, so I don't know.
It is interesting, but overall, not a bad listing, and again, the whole idea with this was to make some observations just as people who see these a lot, and it's also kind of getting in the eyes of, or in the mind of your typical reader, somebody coming to your page. What am I seeing? And then reverse engineering it as publishers, as authors, as independent business people. How can I smooth out that experience for the person that I'm trying to target and persuade to become a customer? That's what we're doing here. And, so all of the authors out there, certainly we appreciate what you're doing. And hopefully this is taken in the spirit of constructive feedback and not, kind of pillorying for no reason.
Yep. And maybe now's a good time, Rob, to just re-mention the book. If you're watching this live, I think we probably are okay with extending it to anyone watching this later on. If you're jumping on this and you're listening to us say, hey, there's a book that we're giving away as part of anyone that comments on this, go ahead and comment. It may not be too late. We may be able to send that to you. So definitely just comment for that, but also just let us know what questions you have and anything that came up while we were doing this. If we went over anything too fast, or you noticed something you'd want to have us discuss, just let us know. We'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. As authors, there's always things to kind of pay attention to. If you have any questions, anything that's vexing you, anything that is causing trouble, and like, I'm not really sure, I'm kind of at this impasse, or I'm struggling with this, or what are the logistics of that? Let us know. Again, we are happy to assist as best we can, and certainly appreciate all of the people out there watching, and on live or on replay. I think that's all I've got for tonight. Anything else that you want to share, Jordan?
No, I'm good. I just love the word vexing. I love that you use that. So
Good. Well, I am happy to share, and everybody, thanks out there. We appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'd love to hear from you. So for Jordan and I, we are out. This is Archangel Inc. Live, number 23. Have an awesome evening.
You guys.